Hey everybody, welcome back to the Nexus, where we spotlight some of our favorite local businesses. I'm really excited you get to see the passion of my friend Matt Anderson here today. He is with CEF of Nebraska, and he's always just a great person to chat with, and so I can't wait for you to get to know him a little bit today. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Renee.
Yeah, well, I always like to start the show with just a little introduction of who you are, where you came from, and how did you start doing what you're doing today?
Well, thank you. Matt Anderson, live up by Raymond, Nebraska, just outside of the Branch Oak Recreation area here. Really been in Nebraska most of my life. The very beginning, I was born in Wisconsin actually, but at 3 months old, my parents moved down here, so I've always considered myself to be a Nebraska.
Wisconsin native.
Yeah, Wisconsinite, yes, cheesehead. Grew up in Ceresco, and nice little town. It was a great childhood growing up. My parents both worked, but you know, when you have that whole thing about kind of the community raising a kid, that kind of thing has been around for a very long time.
Definitely.
And had a just a great childhood. I mean, we weren't rich or anything like that, but we were rich in friendships and you know, as a matter of fact, I still have some childhood friends that I keep in touch with, and it's really great.
Yeah, and it's so close to Lincoln, so it only makes sense that you found your way here.
Yeah, it is. You know, and we when early on when I was first married, we moved out all the way to North Platte. We were out there for a couple of years, but it looks like really gravitated towards home here. Never did I think that I would really live out on an acreage.
Yeah.
You know, and I really like that, and I know we're going to be talking a little bit about what we have going on out there, but yeah, I love what I'm doing now with Child Evangelism Fellowship.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more, just like background on the organization.
Yeah, so CEF of Nebraska is part of the global ministries of Child Evangelism Fellowship. We are an evangelistic children's ministry, the largest and oldest in the world.
Oh, wow.
Our goal, or our mission statement, is to bring the gospel of Jesus Christ to elementary age kids. And so our focus are really 4-year-olds to 12-year-olds. That's really the core part of our ministry. And during the school year, we have what's called our Good News Club, which is an after-school ministry. So school's all done for the day, right?
Yeah.
The bell has rung. And then we come in as an after-school club that features bringing the gospel of Jesus Christ, kind of like a super Sunday school, but it's in the school setting. So we have either sometimes the teachers will change hats and then they'll teach, but most of it we partner up with we call Bible believing, Bible teaching churches, and then we train them, and then they come in and then they have the Good News Club. It meets once a week. Every day throughout the school year, and of course each school has a different day, or they can have multiple days, but they just meet once a week during the school year.
That's so awesome.
Yes.
Not everyone has the gospel brought to them outside of that opportunity.
Yeah, so the four walls of the church are very, very comfortable for a lot of folks, and as missionaries, as we are, by bringing the gospel to where the kids are. Is really a great ministry. So, like I say, started in 1937, so we've been around for 86 years. Since we've been around in those 86 years, we've reached 350 million children with the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Pre-COVID, we were about 25.5 million. We took a pretty good dip in attendance, as it were, and everybody did. Everybody suffered with COVID. We're on the rebound. 19.5 million kids last year. We're well on our way to going to be over that 20 million mark, and about 10.5 million kids actually made what we call a profession of faith, and that's where they actually made a decision to accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. And that's the interesting thing.
That's a really high percentage. That's great.
Globally, it's really interesting. You would think the kind of United States would be kind of like number one, right? We'd be leading in every category. And actually, the opposite is true.
Interesting.
In the countries where, actually having this open conversation that you and I are enjoying, right? We don't have to worry about the religious police come knocking on the door and taking us away. In the countries where the gospel is really not openly shared is actually where we have the greatest growth. And and it's really amazing, you know, because people are hungry. You know, not only children, but children bring that back to the parents, and to the grandparents, and to other relatives, and it's really a snowball effect.
I mean, it is so important to talk about your faith because everyone has been through a rough patch with COVID and kind of coming out of the fog of that, and
Yes.
people are looking for something to grasp onto.
They are.
Have hope, right?
They are. I think that's a great thing. People are looking for hope, and we feel that the best hope is to have the hope of Jesus Christ, right? The one thing I know for sure is that we will spend an eternity somewhere, right?
Yeah.
The question is, what's the address going to be, right? Are we going to be in the presence of the Lord, or are we going to be separated? Separated from the Lord is really hell, right? Because we will no longer be in His presence, and we won't have that. So our job at CEF is to present, here's the gospel, here's what Jesus said, right? But we don't force anything upon anybody. There was a quote that I still remember to this day. It says, "A mind changed against its will is of the same opinion still." So you can't force somebody to love Jesus Christ, right? All I can do is, it's like I have this present. I can give you this present, and it's up to you, first of all, to accept it, right? Okay, so now you've accepted it, but have you opened it up, right, to see what the contents of it are? So that's what we do. We have this wonderful gift here. We would love to give this gift to you. Okay, now that you have it, it's up to you to decide to open it and then look what's inside, and then being able to take advantage of that.
Well, and then are you taking it out of the box and using it every day, or are you just letting it sit on the shelf and just look pretty?
Exactly.
You know? Think about it once in a while.
So we have a couple of core ministries. We have our Good News Club, right, which is happens.
I remember that my kids, when they were in Lincoln Public Schools, they would come home with that flyer, and so that's cool. I didn't realize that was associated.
Yes, and the great thing is, one of the questions we frequently get is how can you come into a school, right, which is a public entity, with a religious organization? And that's a great question. And I have a great answer. June 11th of 2001, so 3 months before 9/11, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that if a school district provides space in their schools for any outside organization, they cannot discriminate against a religious organization.
Right.
So, like if you got Cub Scouts, or you have the chess club, or you have the knitting club coming in, they have to accept, right? So we have a great relationship with the schools around the state. And with rare exception, if there's if people say they can't, it's usually a miscommunication or a misunderstanding of that. When we sit down and talk with them, that gets smoothed over. Our biggest challenge, believe it or not, though, is actually finding volunteers, right?
Okay.
In the state of Nebraska, there's 250,000 elementary age kids in public, private, and homeschool, right? Out of that, there are 714 elementary schools. And out of that, we are in about 65. So as you can see, there's a lot of room for growth. As it says in Luke 10:2, the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Yeah. So we look for volunteers. So if the people we look for are ones who want to give back to the community, people who love kids, love Christ, and maybe just not quite sure how they can share that passion, right? But let's have an opportunity just to talk with them. Here's what we're doing, and to see if it would be a good fit, right? Because not everyone's a good fit.
And it's only 1 day a week commitment.
It's a 1 day a week, couple hours. Yeah, it's not bad. So we have our Good News Club. Then during the summertime, we have our 5-day club. This is actually where we get our young teens actually involved. We have something called Christian Youth in Action, and these are teenagers, so 13 up to college age kids, where we train them how to actually go out into the communities. We do it in teams of 3, so a very similar program to the Good News Club, except we do it in the homes, we do it in the backyards, trailer parks, community learning centers, places really where families and kids gather. And the only requirement for the host is to provide a place and to provide a light snack. And if that's, providing a snack is a financial burden, we can help out with that. But we send in our teams of 3, and then these teams will do it in the morning, afternoon, or in the evening, depending upon the schedule. And then we have also something called our party club. So right now, Christmas party clubs, a 1 day, actually for a couple hours, we can go into a school, we can go into a daycare, we can go into a home, any place where kids, and families kind of get together. We did one at a local elementary school here, and we had 200 families show up.
Oh my gosh.
For one event. Yeah, it was amazing. So to answer your earlier question, people are looking for hope, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of feel like the ways of the world, people are grasping, right? And so the thing about CEF is that we give them hope. What we feel we give them hope in a hopeless world, right? So we're very excited about where the Ministry of Child Evangelism Fellowship is going. And here in Nebraska, we reached for the first time over 10,000 kids this last year. Actually, 10,159 kids. And for the size of organization we are, that's incredible. Now, my job,
like full-time staff is like very minimal.
Yeah, our challenge here again is finding good quality staff. Well, not finding good quality staff, finding the funding, right?
True.
So we are, of course, we're a nonprofit. My job, I was hired on 5.5 years ago as the stewardship director, and so to be the stewardship director, I help people to shepherd the resources that God's put upon them, right? Number one would be financial, but also about their talents, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because time, talent, and treasure, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we can use one or all of those or any of those in combination. We're a very prayerful ministry, so we figure if people don't have the time, they don't have the money. Most people will pray, right? If you ask them to pray, would you pray about this specific thing? And it's an amazing thing. The power of prayer is powerful. When we pray, the hand of God moves.
Yeah, and I just think it's amazing the way that you have such a natural ability of speaking about faith and incorporating it into your daily life. Like, that was the thing I just took away from like the very first time that we met. I feel like
that's a couple years ago.
I know, it's been a while. So yeah, I think it's just an amazing thing that everything that the organization does, and clearly they're going to have a lot of different facets. They've been around for a long time, and so they've figured out what really works well, and they're always continually like adding new things to try to reach new people. So that's amazing.
So in the networking business, a good referral, somebody that we would be looking for. First of all, you don't have to qualify somebody whether they believe God or not. We'll kind of hammer that out in the conversation. But as you're shopping around, as you're in businesses and stuff, look up on the walls. Do you see like maybe baseball, softball, soccer teams, right? That might be a clue right there that they support, right? They're already involved in the community. Maybe you see some religious paraphernalia, you see a cross, or you see something about the church or something. Maybe it's a bake sale, or they got something going on, a Friday fish fry. Those are businesses and individuals that we would like to have a conversation with. So if anybody sees that, we would love to have the opportunity to talk with them, say, here's who we are, here's what we do, and we'll see if it makes sense to have a partnership with them.
Yeah, so if somebody is interested in possibly volunteering or giving back, just go to the website or have them reach out to you directly?
Yes and yes. So they can go to cefnebraska.org. We have a contact us form on there. They can text or call me direct at 402-480-5515.
We'll put that in the notes.
Yeah, and or you can email me, Matta, at cefnebraska.org. All great ways to get a hold of me, and can't wait to meet new and interesting people. And we were talking a little bit earlier about the heavens and what God has really created out there. It's just amazing. And one of the other passions, of course, that I have is the Branched Oak Observatory, and that was something that I wasn't looking to really get started, 9.5 years ago, but
it wasn't in the 10-year plan.
It was not in the 10-year plan, So we had lived in Ashland for about 33 years. I was previously married. My first wife, she passed away from ovarian cancer, and God saw it fit for me to get remarried. And remarried actually to my high school sweetheart.
Oh my gosh!
And so that was a great thing. Yeah, we still, we still liked each other. She kind of jokes that actually on her graduation, I got dumped.
Oops.
So, because I was too old. And anyway, so I had only met Tracy, my wife is Tracy, and she's been a great partner. And I had met her once when I worked at Menards, and it was kind of neat to see her, you know. And my wife was going through the cancer at that time. And we just kind of lost touch.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of interesting how life moves, right?
Yeah.
And how circumstances change.
Somehow.
Yeah.
She came back into the picture.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I actually was looking. I was just looking for somebody to talk to after my wife had passed.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I remember, I wonder if she's still around. And so I was looking in the phone book, and there was only one Schlender. Her main name was Schlender. And so I gave a call. I said, if nobody else, if it's not her,
Yeah.
they gotta know, because Schlender's not Smith and Jones, right?
No.
So I call up, it was her mom that answered the phone, and she just goes, Tracy, somebody's on the phone.
Oh my God! You happened to be there even.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so, and that began our relationship, a renewal of our relationship. So we'll be married now, well, we just passed the 15-year mark.
Okay.
Here, so it's been an amazing ride. But,
so then, how did you come about with the Branch Oak Observatory?
So we moved out to where we are now 9.5 years ago. There was some tragedy in the family. My father-in-law was murdered back in 2012, and his wife, she'd been wheelchair bound from a stroke back in 2004. So Tracy and her dad helped take care. Now, the main care provider was gone. We had, and so we took care of Janet. We kind of moved her to our house in Ashland and kind of shared her, if you will, with the other sisters. We go, this is no way for a 70-year-old woman to live, right?
Yeah.
So we moved her back. She still owned the property. So I said, we're just going to move her back into her own home. It's already familiar surroundings. And we were there for about 6 months, and then I get a phone call. And the phone call is from my good friend Michael Severinsen, who's my co-founder and CEO. I'm the CEO.
What co-founder?
Co-founder, and he's our director of education.
Okay.
He was the CEO. And he goes, hey Matt, I just started working here at UNL, lecture of astronomy. I've got over 400 kids that I need to have a safe place for them to go. Do you know of any dark places around Lincoln?
Oh my
I
God.
said, well, we just moved out here. Pretty dark. So he actually came out that same night, brought his telescope. It was incredible.
Yeah.
Got to look at the heavens, and actually the first thing that I saw was Saturn. And Saturn, interestingly enough, was the very first celestial object I saw when I got my first telescope as a kid, and also was the first object that he saw when he inherited a telescope from his grandfather. So Saturn really seems to hold a real special place. So we looked at the night sky. He packs up his telescope. He's driving back, gives me a phone call, and all he said was, what do you think of the Branch Oak Observatory? And I knew exactly what he was talking about.
That's
and
so cool.
that started from an overgrown Nebraska farm field to where we are today. And we are the Midwest's best public sky park. We actually, I consider ourselves the premier sky park. We do things out there that nobody else is doing in the world, and I don't make that statement lightly.
The things you've told me about are really cool, and I haven't seen you lately, so tell us about one of the recent events.
Okay.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, actually, so we'll start with actually what recently. We just completed a $500,000 investment into the observatory with the Kunkel Family Multi-Purpose Center. It's a classroom / multi-purpose center, state-of-the-art AV. We have a custom library in there that's all astronomy based.
So
Over
awesome.
1,000 titles that people can come in, they can check out a book on astronomy. So from the very beginner, somebody that's just kind of dabbling with it, all the way to the super researcher, the person who is very serious about astronomy. We have everything in between. So we've got some very current astronomy books. One of the other unique experiences that we have out there is that we have an amazing meteorite display. And it's just not a meteorite display that you look at. It's a meteorite display that you can actually engage with. In other words, we're going to take a rock from outer space and we're going to place it in your hands.
And they're heavy.
and they're heavy, you know. And we talk about the different kinds of meteorites, and you know, how did they become meteorites? Well, they started off as meteoroids, which are floating around in what everybody calls shooting stars, right? Or those are meteors, and then when they hit the ground, they go from a meteor to a meteorite, you know. And then we talk about the different kinds of meteorites that they have. We have a roll-off style observatory. So this looks like a regular, kind of almost like a garage, but then the roof retracts and it reveals 4 telescopes that we have. They're on concrete piers.
Oh, cool.
So we do several things. So during the daytime, believe it or not, we can look at the sky during the day.
Really?
And we're going to look at our number 1 celestial object, and that's the sun.
Sure.
You know, so we can
Safely.
we can do it exactly. We do the one thing that your mother and your mother, my mother told us to never do. Don't look at the sun, right? You go blind. Well, we can do this really incredibly well. We have 2 telescopes. One is a white light, so allows us to look at sun spots, and the other one is called H-alpha, or hydrogen alpha. Allows us to look at the chromosphere. So when you look at the sun, then you see all these little fingers and the protrusions and stuff. Yeah, exactly. And you see that in real time. It's incredible.
That'd be super cool.
And then we can, then of course, look at the night sky when it gets dark, when we can do visual astronomy. We can also do astrophotography. We can do photographing. We have a domed observatory. And that's kind of what, when people think of astronomy, you think of a place where they've got a building that's got a rounded roof on it, right?
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the first things that was donated to us as a nonprofit. We have a 15-foot ash dome, and inside there we have a beautiful 14-inch telescope in there, and that really allows us to look very deep into the heavens. Now we've been talking about visual astronomy at this point. And I will tell you, we do have a new scope out. It's called an EV. It's an electronic vision telescope.
That's like the latest and
it's the latest.
Best,
yeah,
right?
And you know, for what it does, they're about $5,000 right now. But as with technology, things come down in price. I'll tell you in a second. But what you're looking at through the EV scope really rivals what you're going to find online. When you look at pictures online and you see what's coming out of the EV scope, it's incredible. And that's right at the Branch Oak Observatory. Now, they've gotten it now to where they've got a $600 model. We just found out about the size of this.
Really?
And it's great for some of your, the objects within our own solar system, right? Won't do really deep space, but it's still pretty cool. About $400, $500.
Wow.
And you can see it on your iPad or on your smartphone.
Oh
right?
my goodness.
It doesn't have the traditional eyepiece on there. And the cool part about it is built-in Wi-Fi. So bring your friends over, they can download the app, and everybody can be looking at the night sky. And essentially, you're doing astrophotography, and they go like, "I like what that looks like." They click save, and now it's in their own photo gallery.
Oh my gosh, that sounds
amazing.
so cool.
You need to come out and check that out.
Yeah, I do.
So, visual astronomy. Now we're going to talk about the electronic portion of the universe, right? Now,
This is so much further beyond what I ever imagined we were talking about today.
Yeah, the electronic portion of the universe is like 98% of the actual universe, right? We're talking about light beyond what we can see, and then about all the electronic spectrum. I'll talk about a couple specific ones. One we have is called a JOVE, J-O-V-E radio telescope. This is a citizen science project put together by NASA. And it's really $80, right? $80, you can go on the Jove Radio website, they'll send you a kit, 2 wire antennas. You just kind of pull them out like this so they face the south, right? Hook them up to your laptop, and you get a little program, and you record the electronic signature of the sun and of Jupiter. And now you're part of a global science project. We made ours permanently installed. We have a great partnership with Schaefer Communications. They provided the towers for us, and now we're the only public observatory in the world that has a permanently installed Jove radio telescope. Then we have a cosmic ray detector. As you and I are sitting here, we got cosmic rays passing right on through us. Isn't that exciting to think about? We're being bombarded, right? So we have a detector that will detect that. So they happen so fast, and there's a whole story behind them, but in reality, what we're seeing or being detected ought not to exist, but Einstein's theory of relativity proves otherwise. And essentially what happens, the particle comes through, it strikes a lucite plate that's encased in plastic. We have a high voltage optical sensor which picks up that impact as a flash of light. And that happens so fast we can't see it.
Yeah.
But the optical sensor does, and then it translates that into electronic signal. We put that into an oscilloscope, and it goes beep beep like that. You're like, oh, cosmic ray. And so it's just kind of one of those neat gee whiz things, right?
That is wild.
And
So
then-
how often does it happen though? Like if you're sitting in a spot, would it be like every 5 minutes?
It kind of depends because we're only picking up what's striking the plate. Now, like during solar storms and stuff like that, it can be quite active. Just it can be
Yeah.
a constant bombardment. But typically, every couple of minutes, there's something that's coming through, and it's really neat how that happens. We also do satellite communication, so we can communicate via amateur radio to low orbiting satellites and the International Space Station.
Oh, fun.
So we can pass information via data, so like on a computer keyboard with packets of information. We can do voice just like what we're doing right here. We can bounce our voice off the International Space Station. It repeats it down. And satellites have a footprint depending upon how high they are. The higher up they have, the bigger the footprint, right? So we can have anywhere from a couple of minutes to a couple of hours depending upon the satellite that you're communicating through. So that's kind of a cool
before it
thing.
comes back to you.
Well, yeah.
That's wild.
Yep. Well, the communication happens pretty quickly, within a couple of seconds. But the hover time does change because it will go across the lower ones. They move across the surface of the Earth pretty quickly. The ones that are higher up and some can be geostationary, so they're kind of like a GPS. So they pretty much stay where they're at. And that here again, that's an experience only found at the Branch Oak Observatory. Then the other one are the coup de grace. We have something called our Earth, Moon, Earth, and this is you have to come out and see this thing. It's incredible. So what we do is that we actually can bounce your voice off the surface of the moon, and it comes back as an echo.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the people ask, well, why do you do that? And I said, one, because we can. But two is that there's actually a real reason for it. Outside of the sun, the moon is the most recognized object, right?
Sure.
And we ask kids, like, how far do you think the moon is away? Well, they can whip out their phone, they can find that out. What's the fun in that?
Right.
So I said, here, just give us a guess. How far away do you think the moon is? So I'm going to put you on the spot, and don't think about it.
Okay.
How far do you think the moon is away?
I don't know, 200,000 miles.
Great answer. So how would you like to be able to prove that?
Well, the sound barrier takes whatever 7 seconds or something.
All right. Well, what we'll do is that we're going to take you to our classroom. And so we're going to take the kids and those young at heart, and we're going to, first of all, we have to figure out a few things. We need to figure out the speed of light. Now, we know that's 186,000 miles per second, but we'll just kind of presume that you don't know that. So believe it or not, we're going to take a microwave and a Hershey bar, and we're going to figure out frequency, and we'll figure out the speed of light. So that's the first step that we do. Then we're going to talk about the moon, we're going to talk about Earth, we're going to talk about radio waves and frequencies. Kind of a short program, kind of give everybody an overview. Then we're going to take them to the Radio Shack, if you will, and they're going to sit down in front of the microphone and they're going to say, "Hi, Moon." And they're not just going to say, "Hi, Moon." We're going to have a stopwatch. So one of the other participants, we're going to say, when that person says hi, you hit start, and then when you hear it come back, and it's going to come back really quiet because there's about 220 decibel loss. We're putting 230,000 watts of energy to the moon. And the moon's going to kick it back, but it's going to absorb like 99.99999% of it. But enough of it comes back that we can hear it as an echo. And when you hear that echo, you hit stop. So now we have a time value. So you knew there was going to be math today, right?
Yeah.
So here it is. So speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, that we also confirmed with the Hershey bar in the microwave, times our new variable, which is the time element, right? We just got that, right?
Right.
Which will then, when you multiply that out, gives us approximate round trip distance, right? Divide it in half, more math, right? Now you have the approximate. So based upon your time and that answer, we'll compare it to what you said you thought it would be, and then we can actually then compare it to what we know. So here's what's happened. Kids have done math and science at a really high level, but it's been fun and easy.
It's tangible, they can remember it,
Exactly. So they have theory, right, which is their guess, They have application, which is they're getting the numbers, right, and they're applying it into formula. Then they have proof, which is based upon their information.
Sure.
Okay, and then we have confirmation, which is something that we know from an established source. So we have theory, application, proof, and confirmation, and it doesn't end there. Each astronaut, vocal astronaut, gets a mission patch that says Project Moonbounce, and then they all get a certificate that says, I went to the moon and back at the Oak Observatory.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's going to have their name, their date, their guess, their time, their answer, and what it actually was. So what we really hope, what I'm hoping, Renee.
So you're not going to tell me how far it is?
Oh, that would spoil it. That would spoil it.
Okay, I'll get my team together.
Yeah,
we'll
there you
come
go.
out.
You can find that out pretty
We'll
quick.
be there next Thursday.
My hope is that one of these young kids will want to become an astronaut. Matter of fact, we've had a couple of kids already say, I would love to become an astronaut.
Yeah.
My hope is that when that young person, that young boy, that young girl that comes out in about 25 years from now, because it's about that how long all the schooling and stuff, that when they're sitting there and the news reporters are asking, well, what inspired you to become an astronaut? That one of them said, I went to this little observatory up by Renee, Nebraska, and I spoke to the moon, and it talked back to me.
That's so cool.
And that's just what really drives us. We have great partnerships with like Lincoln Public Schools. We want to do outreach and inreach. We want the underserved in our community, right? The kids, just because through no fault of their own, right? The socioeconomic status. We want to, because everything we do is really STEM oriented. We want to give these kids an opportunity to experience a higher level of learning and removing the financial barrier and any kind of transportation barriers that would prevent them from coming to us. Now we can go to them and we can do a great show, great program, which we want to do, but the gold standard is to bring them here. So we're looking for partnerships with businesses and individuals who would like to give these kids an opportunity, and we would love to hear from them. We're a nonprofit. We've been around for 9.5 years. We're well established in the community. The staff that we have, while it is all volunteer, is a virtual who's who in the education and the business world. We have one of our advisors is a former dean of education at Johns Hopkins. We have 4 college level professors. We have professional astronomers, amateur astronomers who could very easily be professional, and just some good old-fashioned lay people that have a passion for the night sky and for kids.
Yeah.
And so if anybody would love to partner with us, we would love to hear from them. And so how can they do that? So they can go to our website, theboo.org.
Boo, Branch Oak Observatory.
There you go,
Okay.
theboo.org. And you can click on About Us, and then there's a form on there, or contact us. And you can also support us. You can also reach me at the aforementioned cell phone number at 402-480-5515. You can call or text, or you can email Matthew, M-A-T-T-H-E-W, at branchedoakobservatory.com.
Okay. Well, it's a lot to take in.
There's a lot to take in.
But obviously we are big fans of astronomy here. We have a star theme, so you hopefully feel at home here with our decor.
I feel very comfortable here. And very and I've just really been pleased. And I've been watching you guys' growth too, following you on Facebook and social media. And you guys are making a great impact in the community. And I really appreciate you wanting to share back.
Yeah, I love doing this show with people and hearing their story and just seeing the passion for what they do. It's really one of my favorite things. So thank you for showing us your passion for both CEF and for Branch Oak Observatory.
Thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, there's a lot of information that we went over today. We'll try to get some of that in the comments, but definitely reach out to Matt. It's going to be an entertaining conversation. I can guarantee that.
Either way.
So, thanks again for being on the show, and thanks
you.
everybody for tuning in today. We'll talk to you later.